Hello, students. So let's review about identifying proportional relationships. Now, a proportion is an equation, so it has an equal sign that says that two ratios are equal. So, how do we know if two ratios are equal? We can get the value of the ratio. That means write the ratio as a fraction and then simplify the ratios. If they're the same, then they're equivalent. If they're not the same, then they're not equivalent. Remember our topic about rates and unit rates? We can also use that method to compare if two ratios or two rates are equivalent. We compare the rates and the unit rate. And another method that you guys already know would be to use cross product, or in other words, to cross multiply. That means we're gonna multiply A and D. So we're gonna multiply the numerator and its opposite denominator, and its opposite denominator again, and the numerator. So we cross multiply. We call this cross product. Now, why does cross product work? Well, it works because we're actually just finding new numerators but the same denominators. For example, check if 2/3 is the same thing as 4/6. So you're multiplying 2 times 6. So 2 times 6, that would give us what? 12, right? Is equal to, and then you're multiplying 3 times 4, and that would equal to 12. So these two are equal. So what did I say about new numerators? Because if we're multiplying 2, I'm going to use orange. If we're multiplying 2 by 6, we're actually multiplying all these side by 6, and we're actually multiplying all this side by 3. So if we're doing that, we're doing 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is over 18. Now 4 times 3 is 12, and 6 times 3 is over 18. So that's why I say when we do cross products or cross multiplication, we're actually looking for new numerators to compare that with the same denominators. Are the values the same? Are the ratios the same? That's why when we do cross products, we don't write the denominators anymore because we know that they're going to be the same. So for this topic, I'm going to show you two strategies. Number one, of course, we're going to use the cross product. And the second strategy that I'm going to use is we're going to use the value of the ratio. That means we write the ratio or the rate as a fraction and then simplify it. Or we can compare rates and unit rates. There's a lot of ways to do it. Let's start with number one. So for number one, it says tell whether the ratios form a proportion. Again, a proportion means two ratios are equal. Don't forget that, okay? So two ratios are equal. So let's start with 4 over 10. So I'm going to write this as a fraction, 4 over 10, and 6 over 12. Now, the first method is to simplify the fraction. So what number can you divide to 4 and 10? And that's going to be 2. 2 is the common factor. 4 divided by 2, that gives us 2. 10 divided by 2, that gives us 5. How about this one? What number can go into 6 and 12? And the greatest common factor would be 6. If you do 2, you can still do 2, but that's still not the simplest form. So 6 divided by 6 is 1, and 12 divided by 6 is 2. Now, are these value of the ratios the same? They are not the same. So this does not form a proportion, so not a proportion or not proportional. Now, what if we use the cross product? So let's try to use the cross product. 4 over 10 is equal to 6 over 12. Remember, a proportion states that two ratios are equal. These are our two ratios. Now, let's do cross multiplying. So 4 times 12, let me write that out. So 4 times 12 is equal to, and the other one will be 10 times 6. Let me highlight that for you. 10 times 6. So if we multiply these two, what is 4 times 12? And that's going to give us 48 is equal to, what is 10 times 6? And that's going to give us 60. Now, does it form a proportion? Is it equal? Is 48 equal to 60? No, it's not. So it is not a proportion. Okay? Now, if you use your calculator, you can just write 4 times 12 on the top right here, and you're going to say it's going to be 48, and this is going to be 60, so it is not equal. Okay? Make it faster. Now, letter B. We got 8 over 20 and 4/3 to 10 over 3. So let's check this out. First method, we're going to use simplifying it, right? So 8 over 20. Let's simplify this. What number can you divide into 8 and 20? And you're right, we can divide by 4. So 8 divided by 4 will give us 2, and 20 divided by 4 will give us 5. This is the simplest form. Now, let's try the fraction. So it's going to be 4 over 3 over 10 over 3. Now, again, remember when you have this type of problem, you can rewrite this in using the division symbol. So 4/3 divided by 10 over 3. And then remember, when we divide fractions, we multiply by its reciprocal or keep change flip. So that's going to give us 4/3 times 3 over 10. Now we can multiply straight across. Now, from my previous video, I said that we need to learn how to cross simplify. We can cross simplify this. What number can you divide to 3, the numerator, and its opposite denominator? And that is going to be 3. So 3 divided by 3, and the other one will be 3 divided by 3. That will give us 1, and this will give us 1. Now, what number can you divide into 4 and 10? And you are absolutely right. It's gonna be, we divide by 2. So we divide this by 2, and that should give us 4 divided by 2 is 2, 10 divided by 2 is 5. Then we can multiply straight across. 2 times 1 would be 2, 1 times 5 would be 5. Now, these two values of the ratios are the same. So these two are proportional, or they are proportion. They form a proportion. All right, so they're proportional. Now, if you ask me, can we do cross products with this fraction? And the answer is absolutely. So I'll show you. 8 over 20 is equal to 4/3 over 10 over 3. Remember, we're going to cross multiply, right? So we're going to multiply these. I'm going to use green on the other side, and we're going to multiply these and see if it's the same. I'm going to use red now. So 8 times, so you won't get confused. There you go. 8 times 10 over 3. Remember, a whole number has a denominator of 1. Equal to, let's do the other side. I'm going to use blue. So 20 over 1 times 4 over 3. Now, what is 8 times 10? 80. 1 times 3 over 3 equal to, what is 20 times 4? That's going to be 80. What's 1 times 3? That's going to be 3. And they're still equal. So this problem forms a proportion. Okay? Let's do number 3. Or letter C. So we got 5 over 12 and 15 over 36. So let's check this out. If we write 5 over 12 as a fraction, 5 over 12, can we simplify these? We can't. This is the simplified form. How about 15 over 36? If we simplify these, can we simplify it? And you're right, we can divide this by 3. So 15 divided by 3 is 5, and 36 divided by 3 is going to be 12. So we already know that they form a proportion, so this would be proportional. Okay? Now, what if we use the cross product? Would that work? Absolutely. So we got 5 over 12 is equal to 15 over 36. So let's multiply 5 times 36. That 5 times 36, that would give us what? 180. Would that equal to the other side, which is 12 times 15? So 12 times 15, that should give us 180. 180 is equal to 180, so that's why it works. Remember, you have two choices. It's either you do this first method, which is just to simply write the ratio in fraction form, then simplify, or you can just cross multiply or use cross products. Two options, don't forget that. Now, let's try the last problem for this topic. For this subtopic would be 2 over 5. So we already know this is the fraction form. And we have 3 over 4. Then this, we already know this is the simplified form. So these two do not form a proportion. So they're not proportional. So even without cross simplifying, just not cross simplifying, even without doing cross products and just simplifying the fractions, you already know that they're not proportional. There you go. Not proportional. Now, if you decided to do the cross products, you can do it still. So 2/5 is equal to 3 over 4. So we already know 2 times 4 gives you what? 8. 5 times 3 gives you what? 15. Is 8 equal to 15? And that is a no. So they're not proportional. Now, let's compare rates. It says here, tell whether the rates form a proportion. So we're talking about rates. Now, you can compare rates either by using the unit rate, or you can also do cross products. So it's up to you. Now, let's try number 1. It says $24 for 16 burgers, right? Then the other one would be $15 for 10 burgers. So how will we compare this? You can get the unit rate. We can get the unit rate if you want to. If not, we can just simplify the fraction. Either or you can cross simplify. So for this problem, let's try to simplify it, okay? So what is the greatest common factor of 24 and 16? And that's gonna be 8. We can divide this by 8. So 24 divided by 8, that gives us $3 for every 16 divided by 8. That will give us 2. So $3 for 2 burgers. Remember, if it's a rate, you always need to write the units of measure. How about this one? What is the common factor for 15 and 10? And you are right, it's 5. So 15 divided by 5, that gives us $3, and 10 divided by 5, that would give us 2 burgers. So it costs $3 for 2 burgers. Now, why did I not use cross products here? Because if I use cross products, it might not make sense for you. It makes sense for when we simplify these rates. If you want to use unit rate, you can. So you're going to say 24 divided by 16 burgers, and that will give you $1.50 per burger. And the other one would be $15 divided by 10 burgers. That will give you $1.50 per burger. So the rates form a proportion. They're equal. You can do cross products on your own if you want to. Now, let's do number 2. 10 books for $4.50 or 15 books for $6. So let's do number 2 using cross products. We have 10 used books for $4.50. Would that equal to 15 used books for $6? Are the ratios the same? Would they form a proportion? Are the rates equivalent? Now, let's try to do cross products. So we're going to multiply 10 and 6. So we know 10 times 6 will give us 60. Is that equal to, let me use green, 450 times 15. So for 50 times 15, that should give us 67.50. So do these rates form a proportion? No, not a proportion. So this is using cross products. Pretty easy. Now let's do the next problem. tell whether the x and the y values are proportional. So how do we know if x and y are proportional? Remember, x is being compared to y. So that means that 3/8, this quantities right here would be your ratio. So, and 6/16 would also be your another ratio, and 9/24 would be your another ratio. So your x values and your y values, x, y, x, y, x, and y. Now, are these equivalent? That means, do they form a proportion? That's what we need to find out. And how? So one method is to simplify the fraction, right? Get the value of the ratio. So let's simplify them. So we already know for the first one, this is already the simplified version of the ratio, 3/8. You can't simplify it anymore. How about 6/16? What can you divide into 6 and 16 to simplify it? And we know it's gonna be 2. So 6 divided by 2 will give you 3, and 16 divided by 2 will give you 8. So we already know that they are equal. 3/8 is equal to 6/16. How about the third one? So for the third factor, let's try this out. We got 9/24. What number can you evenly divide to 9 and 24? And we know that it's going to be 3. So 9 divided by 3 will give you 3, and 24 divided by 3 will give you 8. So just simplifying your ratios, your value of the ratio, you already know that the rates are, the values of the tables are the same. Now, can we use cross products for this case? Yes, we can. And this is what we do. Okay? So you're going to multiply 3 times 16. What is 3 times 16? And we know it's going to be 48. And you again multiply 8 and 6. We cross multiply them. And we know that's going to be 48. So these two are equivalent. Now let's compare the third column. So if we do the third column, that means it's going to be another set, right? So it's going to be 6 times 24. That should give us, what is 6 times 24? And that should give us 144. So let's do 16 times 9, and that should also give us 144. So when we compare these two ratios using cross products, our products are equivalent, 144 and 144. And also previously, when we compare these two ratios using cross products, the products are also equivalent. Now, using cross products this way doesn't really make sense. When we do this problem like this, it makes more sense for me to use the value of the ratio and simplifying it. That's just me, but you can also use a cross product. So for this example, let's use cross products, okay? So let's compare these ratio and these ratio using cross product. So we got 1/2 over 2/5. Is that equal to 1/3 over 3/5? So remember, we're gonna do cross products. I'm gonna highlight it first. Okay, so 1/2, the yellow one, 1/2 times 3/5. That should give us 1 times 3 is 3, 2 times 5 is 10. Would that equal to, we got 2/5, the green one now, 2/5 times 1/3. So 2 times 1 is 2, and 5 times 3 is 15. So just comparing these two ratios, we already know that they're not equivalent. So they do not form a proportion. So you don't need to go and do the third one, because we already know even the first two columns, they're not equal. So they are not proportional. Save you time.